Have you ever felt mentally exhausted even before making a simple decision? Have you spent hours or days analyzing all the possibilities, revisiting old conversations, planning every detail of something that, in the end, you didn't even have the courage to execute? If so, know that you are not alone. But you also need to know, this is not normal. It's a symptom, a sign that you've fallen into a cognitive trap so sophisticated that it even seems like intelligence. But it's not. Maybe you believe you are being careful. That overthinking is a sign of wisdom, that weighing every variable is proof of maturity. But what if I told you that overthinking might be what's sinking you? That your excessive analysis is, in fact, a defense mechanism? An elegant excuse from your mind to avoid acting, to avoid risking, to avoid living. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner and author of Thinking Fast and Slow, proved that the problem is not thinking, it's thinking the wrong way. According to him, humans operate with two distinct mental systems. System 1, fast, automatic, intuitive, and System 2, slow, logical, deliberate. And what happens to those who overthink? These people are activating System 2 to deal with problems that should be solved with System 1. The result? Worse decisions, more suffering, and a life stuck in endless cycles of doubt and stagnation. The mind starts to fabricate catastrophic scenarios. You begin to overvalue irrelevant details. The fear of regret paralyzes your action, and you enter a state of infinite analysis, as if thinking a little more would bring some kind of salvation. But it doesn't. It never has. It only postpones. Worse, the more you think, the more energy you consume. And that energy is not infinite, it's limited. Your brain has an attention budget, and when you spend it trying to predict all possible outcomes of a simple choice, what's left? Nothing. Just fatigue, just frustration, and ironically, no concrete action. In this video, I will show you how this happens, why you feel this way, and most importantly, how to escape this prison. Because yes, there is a way out. But it requires something you may have forgotten how to do. Trust yourself. Act without all the guarantees. Accept uncertainty as part of the journey. If you are the type who lives trapped in your own mental maze, get ready. This conversation won't be comfortable, but it could be the beginning of your liberation. You think you are who you think you are. That every decision, every doubt, every rational choice is the result of your conscious control. But Daniel Kahneman would make a point of showing you that this is an illusion. You do not think as you imagine. Your mind is not a straight line. It is a battlefield where two systems wage a silent war. On one side, we have System 1, fast, intuitive, automatic. It is responsible for that gut feeling, for the immediate reaction, for the instant recognition of patterns. It is this system that makes you brake the car before you realize the danger. That makes you identify a lie without knowing exactly why. It is quick, efficient, and most of the time, surprisingly accurate. On the other side is System 2, slow, analytical, deliberate. It is what you activate when you need to solve a complex equation, make an important decision, or force yourself to pay attention to something boring. It is this system that allows you to plan, calculate, rationalize. But here's the detail that almost no one tells you. System 2 is lazy. It only kicks in when forced. And worse, it consumes a huge amount of mental energy. And that's precisely where the problem of overthinking lies. When you live in a constant state of analysis, reanalysis, and rumination, it's as if you are forcing your brain to operate in high consumption mode all the time. You put System 2 to solve problems that many times could have already been resolved by System 1 in seconds, intuitively, lightly, naturally. Imagine someone trying to choose between two paths to get to work. One is the one they always use, know well, and has never failed. The other is a bit shorter on paper, but full of variables they do not master. Instead of simply following the usual path, As their system one would do, they spend hours thinking, what if there's traffic? What if it rains? What if I'm late? What if the other one is better today? Result, they leave home late, stressed, and still guilty for not having made the right choice. Overthinkers are addicted to using System 2 for everything, even for trivial decisions. They think that more analysis always means more wisdom. But Kahneman shows us that this is a dangerous belief, because when you overload your System 2, you distort reality. You start to judge poorly, see dangers where there are none, and ignore the power of your intuition. And there's more. The more time you spend inside your head, the more you reinforce a vicious cycle of fear and doubt. System 2, which should be a timely ally, becomes a tyrant that demands proof, guarantees, and absolute certainties, all impossible in real life. But why does this happen? Why do we think that overthinking is a sign of control when, in fact, it makes us more vulnerable to our own fears? The answer lies in a deep illusion, a lie that your mind tells you every day. And that is exactly what we will talk about in the next part. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. You believe that thinking deeply brings you closer to the truth, that digging deep into every decision, exploring every angle, simulating all possible scenarios, protects you from error, regret, and failure. But this is one of the most dangerous lies your mind tells you to keep you immobile. What you call deep analysis may actually just be fear disguised as wisdom. Daniel Kahneman exposed this phenomenon with brutal clarity. According to him, the more time you spend analyzing a decision that could be made simply and intuitively, the greater the chance that you will end up getting lost in irrelevant details, distorting the facts, and reinforcing your own insecurities. Overthinking does not lead you to a more accurate truth. It leads you into a maze where the exit becomes increasingly distant. Think about it. When you are immersed in overthinking, are you really seeking clarity? Or are you trying to eliminate any risk, any discomfort, any uncertainty? Do you want an answer or a guarantee? The problem is that the human mind, especially System 2, has a natural tendency to overestimate its predictive capacity. The more time you dedicate to analysis, the more you think you can foresee all possible outcomes. And that is false. You start to create alternative realities. What if I do this and it goes wrong? What if I say that and the person pulls away? What if? Gradually, you stop dealing with what is and start reacting to what could be. The present dissolves and everything becomes speculation. You enter a state of hyper-rationalization where your mind begins to operate not based on facts, but on projected fears, amplified and validated by arguments you construct to justify your paralysis. This is where confirmation bias comes in, another crucial concept brought forth by Kahneman. When you overthink, you are not being more rational. You are merely seeking arguments to support what you already feel. If you are afraid of making a mistake, your analysis will find reasons not to act. If you are afraid of judgment, your analysis will prove that silence is safer. You are feeding your own mental prison with false logic. And this process is addictive because the feeling of thinking deeply gives a false sense of progress. You feel that you are preparing, that you are being careful, that you are being responsible, but you are not. You are postponing life, replacing action with simulation, and the cost is high. Your mind becomes heavy, slow, disconnected from the present moment. You start to drift away from concrete reality, from opportunities, experiences, and human connections, all in the name of a security that never comes, because deep down, what you seek is not clarity, it is control. But here is the truth that almost no one has the courage to say. The more you try to control everything with thought, the more you lose control of your own life. And this leads us to the next point, Because besides deceiving you with a false sense of wisdom, overthinking exacts a real biological price, an invisible exhaustion that robs you of energy, courage, and the ability to act. In the next part, you will understand how your mind, in trying to protect you, is leading you straight to collapse. Have you ever woken up tired, even after a good night's sleep? Have you ever felt the weight of a seemingly simple decision as if you were carrying a burden of tons? This is not laziness. This is cognitive exhaustion, and it can be the greatest invisible enemy of your ability to live fully. Daniel Kahneman showed that System 2, responsible for analytical and deliberate thinking, requires a high consumption of mental energy. It needs conscious effort, concentration, focus. And contrary to what you might think, your mind does not have infinite energy to deal with this. It operates on a limited budget, and the more you push this system, the more you go into deficit. When you dive into overthinking, you are using this system constantly, obsessively, unnecessarily. It's like keeping a car revved up while parked on the shoulder. The engine heats up, the fuel runs out, but you don't go anywhere. Your brain is spinning in cycles of simulation, but you're not making decisions. You're not creating movement. You're just wearing yourself out. This constant state of mental hyperactivity generates an effect that Kahneman called ego depletion. It's when your self-regulation capacity starts to fail, when even simple tasks, like replying to a message, leaving the house, or choosing what to eat, start to feel too heavy. You begin to procrastinate, not because you are disorganized, but because you are exhausted, mentally drained. And there's more. This cognitive fatigue does not only affect your productivity, it distorts your perception of risk. Mentally tired people tend to avoid decisions. They prefer to postpone, delay, ignore, all in the name of a caution that is actually just poorly recognized fatigue. Worse still, the more exhausted you are, the more you rely on automatic thought processes, and ironically, you start to misuse System 1 as well. You become more impulsive, more emotional, more reactive. In other words, you lose the best of both worlds. The clarity of System 2 and the precise intuition of System 1. The cycle intensifies. Overthinking leaves you exhausted. Being exhausted makes you avoid decisions. Avoiding decisions increases anxiety. Anxiety reinforces the need to think more. And so, you enter a mental loop that consumes your days, robs your vitality, and disconnects you from concrete action in the world. But here's the cruelest part of all. You believe you are in control, that you are being responsible, that you are waiting for the right moment, when in reality you are just sinking into an illusion that slowly destroys you from within. And what sustains this illusion? A recurring thought. If I analyze just a little more, maybe I can predict the outcome. This thought seems harmless, but it is what keeps you chained to the idea that thinking more will save you. In the next part, we will unmask this thought. We will reveal the lie that makes you believe that more analysis gives you more control, when in reality, it traps you more and more in paralysis. Get ready to face the brutal truth about the sense of mastery you seek so much. Do you believe that if you think more, plan better, and calculate every detail with almost obsessive precision, then everything will work out? You will make the right decision, avoid mistakes, escape pain. This is the great myth that fuels overthinking, the illusion that more analysis brings more control. But the truth, as harsh as it may seem, is that this control never existed. Daniel Kahneman was categorical about this. The more we try to control the future with rational thought, the more we fall into cognitive traps that distort our perception. What we think is a legitimate effort at planning is often just a psychological mechanism to cope with the anxiety of living in an uncertain world. And here is the central point. The mind hates uncertainty. The unknown activates our biological alarm system. In response, we try to reduce this discomfort with thought, analysis, planning. But what we forget, or prefer to ignore, is that most of the variables that determine the outcome of a decision are beyond our control. You can plan a perfect date, and the other person may simply not show up. You can organize every detail of a project and still lose your job. You can analyze all the possibilities of a life choice and still regret it, because life does not obey your mental spreadsheet, and it never will. The overthinker, in this context, is like someone trying to predict the direction of the wind by drawing graphs in the sand. It is an exhausting effort to anticipate the unpredictable. Yet, in the process, they do not realize they are stuck, frozen, while the real world, where decisions happen, where opportunities arise and disappear, keeps spinning. The illusion of control also generates an extremely common behavior: excessive information gathering. The person cannot decide because they feel that something is still missing. One more piece of data, one more opinion, one more comparison, and that one more never ends, because it is not about clarity, it is about fear, and fear will always find a reason to wait just a little longer. Kahneman shows that by trying to eliminate risk through thought, we create a new type of risk, that of permanent paralysis. The obsession with being right prevents us from acting on what is sufficient. And the world does not reward those who know everything. It rewards those who do, those who expose themselves, those who make mistakes, learn, and adapt. You can keep trying to anticipate all scenarios, or you can accept the most liberating and frightening truth of all: there is no perfect decision. There is only a decision made. Once you understand this, something changes. You no longer need to consume yourself trying to predict what cannot be predicted. You begin to make room for a different kind of action, one that is lighter, faster, more aligned with your intuition. And that is exactly what we will talk about in the next part. Because now that you understand why overthinking keeps you trapped, it's time to learn how to escape this prison. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebooks. Beyond the Shadow breaks down Jung's core ideas, while Dialogues with the Unconscious gives you a 30-day path to apply them in your life. Both are linked in the pinned comment. Now that you understand why overthinking holds you back, you might be wondering, but then, what do I do? How do I break this cycle? And that is the right question, because breaking free from overthinking is not about thinking less. It's about thinking better. It's about using your mind intelligently, rather than letting it dominate you. And this is where Daniel Kahneman's ideas become powerful tools for liberation. The first key is to recognize the type of decision you are facing. Not every choice requires deep analysis. Ask yourself, does this have serious and irreversible consequences? If the answer is no, you are allowing your System 1, your intuition, to act. Reserving System 2 for high-impact decisions is an act of mental preservation. If you treat a trivial choice as if it were a life-or-death decision, you will exhaust yourself, and you will stop truly deciding. The second strategy is the 10-10-10 rule. How will I feel about this decision in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years? This forces you to step out of the immediate emotional state and put your choice in temporal perspective. Many decisions that seem huge today simply won't matter tomorrow. This cuts at the root of the useless rumination that paralyzes the present. The third tool is the information cutoff. That is the information cutoff point. Before you even start analyzing, set a limit. I will research for 2 days, listen to 3 opinions, consider 2 scenarios, and then I will decide. Why? Because more information doesn't always improve the decision. Sometimes it just fuels your anxiety and indecision. Learn to tolerate the discomfort of acting without all the answers. No one has them. The fourth practice is the pre-mortem. Instead of trying to predict all possible outcomes, imagine that you made the decision and that it went wrong. Ask yourself, why would that have happened? If you can't imagine a realistic failure, or if the failure would be reversible, stop analyzing. This tool forces you to deal with real fear, not the fear invented by your system 2 in a control freak-out. And finally, trust your experience. If you have been through similar situations, your intuition is more trained than you think. Kahneman acknowledges that in recurring and familiar contexts, System 1, the one you usually ignore, is more efficient than 1,000 hours of rationalization. Intuition is not a guess. It is wisdom condensed by practice. If something feels right or wrong, pay attention. These tools do not eliminate doubt. They do not guarantee that you will never overthink again, but they give you something infinitely more valuable: mental autonomy, the ability to decide, act, and move forward, even without absolute certainty. Because in the end, those who live waiting for certainty die waiting for it. And here is the most important point of all. You don't need to trust your mind less. You need to learn to use it at the right moment, in the right way. That is true mastery. But you might still be wondering, what if I make a mistake? What if even following all this, I still fail? It is this final doubt, the fear of error, that keeps thousands of people trapped in infinite thinking. In the next and final part, we will confront this question head-on. We will understand why true power lies not in avoiding mistakes, but in learning to decide and act despite them. It's time to conclude this cycle with the most transformative message of all. You spent your life believing that being careful means thinking more, that maturity is weighing all the risks before acting, that intelligence is synonymous with caution. But Daniel Kahneman shows us that there is something even more valuable than the analytical mind, the courage to decide with conviction. And here is the truth you may be avoiding. You will never have enough certainty. You will never have complete data. You will never have all the guarantees. Life is unpredictable. And that is precisely why acting decisively is so powerful. Not because it guarantees correctness, but because it frees you from the prison of eternal doubt. The freedom you seek is not in thinking more. It is in accepting that mistakes are part of it, that regret is inevitable, that discomfort is the price of a life lived authentically. And here is the hidden beauty. When you start to act with clarity, even without guarantees, something changes within you. Confidence does not come before action. It comes afterward. It is the byproduct of someone who acts, learns, errs, and continues. Thinking forever while waiting to feel ready is like waiting to learn to swim without ever getting into the water. When you make a decision, no matter how small, and execute it, you reclaim a part of your power. You send a signal to your brain, I am in control. And that simple, repeated gesture completely transforms your relationship with life. You stop being a spectator of your own mind and become the agent of your own story. Kahneman said that slow thinking, System 2, should be used wisely, not obsessively. Knowing when to stop thinking and start acting is one of the rarest skills of the human mind. And when you master this, something extraordinary happens. You no longer need certainty, you only need direction. So stop waiting for permission. Stop seeking guarantees. Act, even with fear, even with doubt. Because true strength is not in eliminating uncertainty. It is in walking with it. Now tell me, what decision have you been avoiding by overthinking? Write it here in the comments. It doesn't matter if it's small or giant. Naming that decision is the first step to breaking the cycle. And if this video confronted you in any way, share it. Someone close may be living exactly in that mental prison. And this message may be what they need to hear. And most importantly, keep watching. The next video is essential. I'll see you there.